Hey guys, SGT here, and I have a very special broadcast for you. I think this is extremely important because of the criminality we're seeing on Wall Street, from short selling, naked short selling by Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, to the $2 billion lost by JP Morgan, to the MERS fraud with mortgages. It all ties together, and I have on the phone right now the National Director of Protect America's Dream, Vermont Trotter. Vermont, welcome.
Thank you very much, Sean.
You're an expert in this area. For anybody who has not read Matt Taibbi's latest, Matt Taibbi is a great reporter over at Rolling Stone. You know, I malign the mainstream media a lot, right, for not doing their job. That couldn't be further from the truth as it pertains to Matt Taibbi. Now, he just released his latest article the other day, and it's titled, Accidentally Released and Incredibly Embarrassing. Documents Show How Goldman et al. Engaged in Naked Short Selling. This is all tied together, and at the top of the pyramid are corporations like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch who have been involved in this malfeasance in stealing homes from people. You told me yesterday when we talked briefly that there's a duality of the fraud going on here. It's title fraud and GAAP accounting fraud, and it's all tied in to people losing their homes. I'm going to let you run from there.
Well, first of all, Sean, I would like to stress to everybody, it's not just people that are in foreclosure or perhaps upside down underwater. It's not those people. It's everybody. This malaise, this fraud, this GAAP and title fraud affects 70 million homeowners, which is how many people that this MERS fraud has touched. So, it's just that it's discovered at foreclosure. That's when you figure out what happened. And here's what happens in a nutshell when you sit down to sign for a note for a purchase or a resale. Unknown to you, your note has already been securitized. Your signature is fulfilling a quota that needs to be filled because of the repo and the reverse repo markets, the demand that's there. The moment you sign, your note and deed of trust goes through a series of transactions regulated by the pooling and servicing agreements, all of which should be registered at the recorder's office at the county courthouse. But instead, they're registered in the name of MERS, which is a database, and they call themselves a nominee for all the members of the MERS system. Well, okay, so of course everybody's a member of a MERS system. I remember the first time there's 5,999, just one shy of 6,000 members of the MERS system when I actually last looked at the hard database. The MERS system took the Depository Trust Corporation as its role model when they developed this system. And if you really start to pick at MERS and what they are and what they do, they are literally a bourse. There's this black hole of ownership and title registration that's been totally privatized and can only be accessed by members of the guild. It's just like naked shorts.
Okay, so now let's talk about this because, my audience is familiar with the DTTC, right? Don't even get Bick Swear started on this or Andy Hoffman. It's a black hole for share settling at the end of the day. So when you buy and sell your shares on Wall Street and stocks, those settlements need to occur through the DTTC. They're essentially holding your shares in perpetuity. And as others like Jim Sinclair have said, get your shares back in your name so Wall Street can't continue to naked short sell them.
Your hands.
Yeah, and in your hands. Anyway, this is such a complex topic. Let's get back to MERS as it relates to this fraudulent activity going on. What can people do to get the title of their home back in their own names? Because it seems to me that these state attorney generals have made a deal with the devil, and they're letting Wall Street off here. Am I correct in that?
I would agree with that assessment, yes, pretty much, and especially now when you see that various state governments are already hijacking this settlement money that was supposed to be going to homeowners. Instead, they're using it for more government and to balance their books. So what can you do? Well, protect America's dream. The first thing you need to do is to find out if your life is infected by this MERS curse. And if you go to protectamericasdream.com and scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see a place there where you can get a free MERS min search. And that's the first thing you need to do is to find out if the problem affects you.
Let's take a case example. Let's say that you bought a home. Let's say you built a home 8 years ago, and you stayed with the same lender. The lender never sold your loan. And then let's just say, for example, 3 years ago you decided to refinance at a lower rate. What are the chances that your title is also affected by MERS. If you're still paying the same lender, if they haven't sold your loan and it hasn't been repackaged and repackaged and resold and resold?
Well, first thing you need to understand is that even if you have been with the same face of a bank, your loan was probably sold and securitized back in however long ago it was you acquired it. You really need to check back to at least 1997 when MERS came into existence. But the odds of it being, especially if you refinanced 3 years ago, odds are very high that you've got a MERS on your mortgage, and that you were securitized. There are certain people like the people at WAMU, who WAMU did keep their paper in-house, but they also had their own little securitization game going. And then when J.P. Morgan picked those guys up, the water has got ever more murky.
Okay, so one of the key takeaways you told me about is that it's your home, it's about your title. And the problem is that most people don't have one. And as if that weren't funny enough, there's always the punchline. It's also about title insurance. This thing just goes on and on and on. What should people be doing right now who aren't in foreclosure and are now worried that their title to their home may not even be something that they have or that their bank has, because this thing's all been rolled into MERS?
It's all been rolled into MERS and securitized and sold, just like everything else that your listeners are aware of has been securitized and sold off. I mean, it's all gone. That's the first thing you need to understand, and it's all interconnected. You need to find out if you have MERS on your mortgage. Find out if you are infected with that. There are two certain common areas that everybody has. The first one is that aha moment when you realize, A, what they've done, and B, what that means to you personally. And then the end game, which ultimately, in my opinion, is going to end up being a quiet title action. You'll probably see institution of land courts where it's like, oh yeah, one of those again. Okay, what do you want us to do? And we have to reconstruct the land title records at the county courthouses. Right now that has been hijacked. That information has been absolutely hijacked, and nobody knows what it is unless you're a member of the guild.
Okay, so is there anything that anybody can do that is simple? Tell us about your website. I mean, this is such a complex issue, and I like to think I'm fairly well educated on a lot of these issues. What are the first steps?
Protect America's Dream is a website that's set up to take someone who is just coming to the realization of the full damage that's been done to this country on issues of title, introduce you to the subject matter, and then teach you, and then kind of get you over your learning hump, the learning curve that everybody's got to go through. As I mentioned, what happens between the aha moment and at the end game when that individual parcel has a quieted title. There's a lot of things that can happen, and what happens to you individually is what is most, what works for you most as an individual. What are your desires? What are your goals? There is no single silver bullet answer of what to do, other than make yourself aware of the true issues that are at hand here in regards to the title to your house. Figure out what that means to you. Figure out, how to move forward. Build a plan from that. The end game, ultimately, as I say, for the piece of property is going to end up having to be a quieted title, because that's the only way we'll ever be able to put this mess back together again.
Okay, well, as if people don't have enough to worry about in this country, you wrote to me that unless you take action to clear things up, the title to your home will remain hopelessly clouded. Title is absolute. You can't have a little bit of title. What is a clouded title worth to you? No one can buy, no one can sell, no one can deliver clear title at the end of a mortgage obligation. But the issue, Vermont, is that people are buying and selling homes all day long in this country. So what is the crux of the problem?
The crux of the problem is that people don't look. I can give you some very clear examples of where problems have popped up. You'll read about Joyce Riley on our website, Protect America's Dream. Joyce Riley bought a house for cash 3 years ago and is being foreclosed on. Actually, it turned out later that she wasn't being foreclosed on, but in trying to fight it, she discovered that the person that she bought the property from did not have the title to deliver when she paid cash for it. So now she's out $60,000 and nobody knows who owns the property. There were a couple of court cases out of Massachusetts Supreme Court. The first one called Ibanez, the second one called Bevilacqua, and it deals with these very issues. that the titles that have been destroyed. Nobody knows who owns anything.
Well, Vermont, just to sum up here, this is such a big, giant issue. It's almost too much to tackle. There was a website called Show Me the Note, I believe, and I asked my lender to show me the note. They produced documentation claiming they still have the note. What's the first step? Where do people go with an issue this complex to even begin digging into it? Because as you and I both know, property rights in this country, that's really the crux of freedom. That and the freedom of speech and our right to bear arms. Once we lose our property rights, we're officially slaves. What do people do?
The show me the note issue. That started the issue. You need to develop the facts of your case. Every person's facts are different. This is one of the hard things that people need to get their mind around. There will never be a class action lawsuit on this because you can't get a class and an action together in the same room at the same time. Everybody is different. So the first thing you have to do is start gathering the documents, and the truth is in the recorded documents. That's the only thing that matters, is what is recorded at the county courthouse. And that is where the issue is of title. What they did to your note is they committed rather significant sleight of hand and magic under GAP guidelines, and they're trying to put together a Humpty Dumpty, and they can't do it. A lot of things have been obliterated. You can't make carrots out of carrot juice. Who owns a single individual barrel of oil in a pipeline? Nobody knows who owns anything. This is the horror that you've got to come to grips with. The good news is that it can be put back together, but it has to be done on an individual basis. It's a very complicated subject. You are correct. It is very difficult to sit and comprehend in a short interview. The biggest thing I would suggest is to start the learning process. That's where you can start with Protect America's Dream. Go in, sign up for an account, and start learning. And where you go from there is totally up to you, what you do with the information. The last thing I'd like to leave your listeners with is a realization that it is all interconnected. What is happening with J.P. Morgan and their silver position is being reflected over in the real estate division, is being reflected over in the credit card division, student loan, you name it. It's all been securitized. It's all about cash flow. It's all about one giant Ponzi. And I am in agreement with probably a lot of your listeners that it's about to all fall down.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up here, Vermont. I sure do appreciate your time. And just one last note. Your website is Protect America's Dream. You and I have no financial agreement, no financial relationship. You're not paying me to do this interview. I want nothing to do with your future business. But you do have something on your website called National Homeowners College. I think you charge for that. What is that about? Because I don't like to send my viewers over to a website where they can get great information and then they find out to really get the real information, they got to pay money. Can you help me understand what National Homeowners College is all about?
You bet. The basic thought is that there are only two common places in this journey that everyone has to go through. The first one is the aha moment, when you realize exactly what's happening. It's sort of the starting gate, if you will. The end line, we believe, is quiet title. We've got to be able to put the title issues back together. What happens in between really is dependent upon the individual. I can't begin to tell any one person the best way to move forward. The purpose of the National Homeowners College is to give everybody that aha moment, all the information that they need to realize the magnitude of the problem, how it affects them personally, through how it affects them personally, understand how it affects the nation, and always counseling them to never take their eye off the ball, which is their own personal situation. How you move forward from there is up to you. We've got some ideas. The purpose of the National Homeowners College is to provide you an inexpensive way to learn what all the pioneers have already learned and paid a lot of money to learn it.
All right, very good. And you're the expert in this area. I am not, guys. So if you have any questions, Vermont, is there a way people can reach you to ask you any questions that they might have?
You bet. You can always reach me through the website, protectamericasdream.com, and my email there is V, as in Vermont, as in victory, v@protectamericasdream.com. Please reach out to me. I like you, wish nothing more than to teach.
Very good. Well, we appreciate it. We're all in this mess together, as we like to say, and we appreciate what you're doing over on your end, because if we all stand up together, maybe we can find a way to take this country back from the criminals that are wrecking it. All right, Vermont Trotter of Protect America's Dream, thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it, guys. Much more to come, and visit sgtreport.com for all the latest. Thanks for tuning in.